Life here often feels incredibly messy, and for a number of different reasons. Systems that should care for people and protect people often feel like they fail the very people they should care and protect. Sometimes people's life decisions are disappointing, but because of the person of Jesus and him walking the neighbourhood, I do believe that the mess will be mended.
Only Jesus offers the love and forgiveness needed to tie up loose ends, correct priorities and right wrongs.
In our community, we find that there are quite a lot of broken relationships. Relationships broken with family, with friends, wives who have husbands who get drunk and beat their wives and their family. We've got single mums, we've got 4 kids, trying to raise them, trying to keep a job, trying to look after the kids, trying to do the best they can. And then you throw into that a whole bunch of foreigners who are coming to do good, but they come with their own baggage and their own cultural misunderstandings and all those different things. So how can you pray for us? Pray for us all as a whole, that we would deepen our relationship with Jesus, and pray that we all would grow to love ourselves and others more deeply as well.
Like the underside of a tapestry, the world is in a terrible mess. Billions of people are yet to know the power of the Master's saving grace. They have no hope for what is to come. But despite the mess, God continues weaving.
What does the mess look like where we live? The mess looks like broken relationships. It looks like families who aren't able to live together. The mess looks like lives wasted through drug and alcohol addiction and all the problems that come through that. The mess looks like people trapped in fear. Fear of the spirits and fear of the negative consequences of things that have happened to them in the past.
Through prayer and obedience to his word, Jesus asks us to help him resolve hurts, offer friendship, and be his light.
So how can you pray? You can pray for families to be able to stay together, for families to have the resources that they need to care for each other and to support themselves as a family. You can pray for young people to make wise choices about their future and to make good decisions about how they're going to live their life and keep themselves safe. You can pray for people to find freedom, for people to be set free from fear as they come into a relationship with their Creator, as they trust in Him, that they would find freedom in His name.
Wherever Jesus went, the crowds followed. Everyone wanted to know what the man who said he was the Messiah would do next. They had seen miracles of healing, people walking on water, and a little girl being brought back from the dead. It was never boring with Jesus around. One day, as Jesus was walking near the bottom of the Mount of Olives, some of his disciples, Peter, James, John, and Andrew, pulled him away from the crowds and started to ask him questions.
Knowing that this was going to be a very long conversation, Jesus sat down on the mountain and motioned at his disciples to do the same. When they were all settled, Jesus began to speak to them. He taught to them about the future, what would happen the second time he came to earth. He spoke in parables, telling story after story of what the kingdom of heaven is like.
As Jesus was speaking, the disciples gazed at him in awe. "This is incredible," they thought to themselves. They scooted a little closer to Jesus, making sure they didn't miss a single word that came out of his mouth. Jesus looked around the group and saw 4 pairs of eyes glued to him. He gave a small smile and continued talking. After some time, Jesus changed the topic of conversation to sheep and goats. The disciples knew a bit about sheep and goats. There were plenty around the place. The sound of baa's echoing around the countryside often followed them as they travelled between towns. They knew many good men who were shepherds, and they had heard plenty of stories about the challenges that came with herding a flock of sheep.
Jesus carried on talking. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, he will sit upon his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered in his presence, and he will separate the people as the shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. The disciples looked at each other. Were they all hearing this right? All the nations? How is this possible that all the nations can gather in Jesus' presence? And why was he separating people like sheep and goats?
Interrupting their train of thought, Jesus carried on speaking. The king will place the sheep at his right hand and the goats at his left. Then he will say to the sheep, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the creation of the world."
But people aren't sheep. How will the king know who the sheep are? The disciples wondered. Knowing their thoughts, Jesus began answering their question. Let me tell you who the sheep are. The sheep are those who gave me food when I was hungry, or a drink when I was thirsty. The sheep are those who invited me into their home, even though I was a stranger, and gave me clothes to wear when I was naked. When I was sick, the sheep cared for me. When I was in prison, they visited me.
The disciples were really confused now. What does he mean? When did they do any of these things? Jesus continued on. I tell you the truth. When you do any of these things to one of the least of my brothers and sisters, you are doing it for me.
Prayer to the Weaver God. Lord, in your hands we are as skeins of thread. Each day may we allow ourselves to be woven by you, in and out, through and through, as we seek to become more like you. God of surprises, may your image be evident in the tapestry of each of our lives, an image enhanced by the strands from lives that has been intertwined with ours. Let there be no broken or knotted threads. As you, O Weaver God, put all things right. Only when our work is done will we see the other side of the picture that is our life. Weaver God, we place our lives in your hands. Weave on in and out, over and through, until we become more like you. Amen.